This is America Offline with David Klein. Real conversations, authentic connections with digital wellness experts and mental game gurus. No texting, emailing, snapping, we ain't even tweeting. We're hopping online to talk mental health, mindfulness, and how good it feels to be offline. Coaching you up and how to take control of tech so tech doesn't take control of you.
Hello, Alexa. Thank you for being here today. Really looking forward to connecting with you. We've developed a good friendship and kind of died down everything because our life's been so crazy and you hopped offline for a little bit, which I'm excited to learn more about. But Alexa, for those who don't know you, and most of people on my social media feed may not, but they're going to know now, please tell us a little bit quickly about your background in a nutshell. Who are you and what are you all about?
Okay, thank you, David. I appreciate it. Conversations like these are very, very healing, so thank you. I'm Alexa Eden, for everyone who I don't know yet. I live in New York, currently at the epicenter of where a lot of this is going on in the States, and I am an urban wellness consultant. So I work as a consultant with companies, one-on-one with people, to basically support people in this modern day. Taking time off of their screens, which is why David and I get along so well, but really supporting people in designing a lifestyle that works for them so that they can be optimized and they can show up for their life, for their family, for their work and their job and their passion. So I call myself a recovering social media influencer because I spent many years in this space. And over the last several years, I've put my attention towards really supporting people in this lifestyle process as we develop in a world with a lot more technology, a lot more artificial intelligence coming our way. So I think we're seeing now, and one of the things that we'll talk about today, David, is just how important it is to strike a balance between technology and slow, conscious living. So that's a little bit about me, but hopefully you guys enjoy the conversation. And you can always find me on social media, alexa.eden, on almost any platform. And I'm hoping to connect with you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening. And I'm excited to dive in with you, David.
All right. Yeah, so am I. Okay, so it's like, where do I start now? It's kind of tough. God, I think I'm just so interested, and maybe this is just a good starting point for us. You recently just decided to jump offline during the pandemic. And I'm kind of curious as to, you mentioned you're a recovering social media influencer. Like what prompted that? Why did you feel the need to jump off? And maybe we'll start there. Let's just start there about why you felt the need and maybe some of your experience doing that.
Yeah, thank you. So I know I'm not alone in feeling this way, but as soon as everything started taking off with COVID-19 and coronavirus, the increase in digital media, social media, and regular media use absolutely skyrocketed like we've never seen before. Suddenly, everyone is really panicked. And one of our biggest coping mechanisms, our easiest coping mechanism today, is social media and technology. So our instinct is to panic and go right to social media or go right to something that's going to kind of fill us up with that endorphin. So, that was the first thing that I noticed is everyone was kind of racing to social media. And for me, I'm pretty active when it comes to my business and putting myself out there online. But there are certain boundaries and limits that I've set for myself. And suddenly it seemed like those boundaries were bursting at the seams. It was like so many hours in the day were spent catching up on messages or reading newsletters or things that were just kind of coming out of all angles. Suddenly, people who were not promoting so much, or companies that were not promoting so much, or media businesses that were not sending certain types of messages, we're now, infiltrating every single platform. So for me, there was a lot of conversation around, wow, like the world has kind of stopped. There's a global pause going on. And what are you going to do about it? And I felt like I had a choice. I had a choice to, keep pushing on, keep creating, keeping up with everything, sending messages to people, creating my own content, Or I had an option to really pull back and take accounting of, what do I want to achieve during this time? Do I want to write? Do I want to read? Do I want to go for walks? Do I want to spend time with my family? There were so many things that were kind of vying for my attention. And then I decided, I caught myself spending too much time on social media. And as someone who used to use social media like as the primary part of her business, for me, I found myself kind of in old ways. Where it's like, okay, I used to only, check my phone for like 5 minutes, but then suddenly it was like 30 minutes and 45 minutes. And I'm on the like low end of the scale. I mean, most people are checking their social media for like 7, 8, 9, 12 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So I was totally on the lower end, but for myself, I noticed my habits starting to change and I didn't want it to get out of hand. So I decided to just completely step away from social media. I deleted all the apps from my phone for 7 days. And mainly that was for me to start cultivating myself, my inner world and really support my family.
What was it like during the first 24 hours? If you can remember.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually have a practice where I turn off technology once a week for 25 hours every week. So the first 25 hours was not hard because I'm used to it. I've been doing it for almost 2 years now.
You say 25 hours. Why is it 25?
Yes. So in the Jewish faith and the Jewish practice, you have 24 hours as a full day, and then you have that extra hour to really solidify that the day is over, and then you start the new week. So I don't know the full like spiritual meaning behind it.
The full shtick, yeah.
Yeah, but I do know that it's 25 hours, so I completely take time for that time. So the first 25 hours was not so challenging for me, but I would say the biggest thing that I noticed was my automatic pull to just pick up my phone and just like go look for the app, and it wasn't there. So I think for me, deleting the app was the easiest way for me to really take a break. In the process, funny how the world works, but many of my passwords and my login accounts were locked out. Like I needed to put in a new password and didn't have it saved. So anytime I might have just like wanted to go check one thing, I really couldn't even get on. So that was, I think, some support from the guy upstairs, the universe. Then I noticed, and I think this was, a very honest experience, but there would be times where I would fill my screen time up with other things. Like I would spend an hour going through pictures. And that is, for me, the proof that we've trained ourselves in so many ways to use our screen to distract ourselves. So through the week, I noticed all the ways that I was kind of intentionally distracting myself and giving myself the space to remind myself, oh no, okay, we're taking a break this week. So you wanted to read, you wanted to write, you wanted to spend time with family. Like I actually wrote down my goals for the week saying, without social media this week, here's what I'd like to achieve. And so the hours that I might have spent on it throughout the week, I actually allocated towards other things. So yeah.
Cool. So you mentioned one thing and it means something to me and I have my own thoughts, but you mentioned you were feeling this pull back to the device, mm-hmm. right? And I think everyone to some extent can relate to that, feeling a pull back to, I got to check my email. I don't know why, but like I'm feeling an urge to check my phone. And you didn't like that, correct? Because it was happening more for you. But I guess my question is for the people out there that they acknowledge that happens too. Is that bad? And why is that bad? That's my question. Is that bad?
I would say no, it's not bad, because it's the way that it's been programmed. So like if it's been programmed that way, it's not innately bad. It's how we relate to that feeling that becomes good or bad. if we notice the behavior of us wanting to reach for our device at any one particular time, and we assign meaning to that, that's when it becomes good or bad. But just the simple fact that we feel a pull to want to check something, it's been designed that way.
Well, that's really mindfulness at its core, right? You're recognizing you're feeling an urge. Oh, what is that urge? What is that thought? Do I need to be thinking that thought, or do I need to give into that urge? And then gently moving your attention away from it. It's kind of a beautiful thing, instead of just giving into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, listen, it takes a really powerful person to be able to notice something come up and then say, no, actually, I'm not going to pick up my cell phone. I mean, even myself, I've been working on this for several years, but if I sleep with my phone next to my bed, I'm going to check it.
Right.
I'm going to be falling asleep and be like, oh, I want to check one more thing. Or I wake up in the morning and that's going to be the first thing I do. So instead of like kind of leaving it up to the inner willpower, I like to create a strategy or a system that's going to actually support me in my usage. So, for me, I plug my phone in away from my bed so that I can't even reach it. I put on do not disturb so notifications don't even come up on my phone. So instead of relying on the willpower, I would say, if this sounds like you, if you tend to be someone who reaches for your phone or is wanting to check one more email or is wanting to, post one more thing or see how many likes you got or whatever it is, just notice that that's your behavior and set up some sort of structure for yourself that keeps you balanced and not always reaching for it.
Yeah, the word that I think of when you were kind of talking about how you were trying to go back to your device and then you have to like put in your passwords and you're like, screw it. Like, I don't want to deal with that. Is just friction. You're just creating friction so that you're it's making it more difficult for you to be able to do that. And the same thing with putting your phone in a different place in your bedroom. If you don't necessarily want to have that behavior and have that pull, the idea of setting up some friction for yourself is maybe just that one little thing that you need to tweak or implement so that it isn't stealing away your time and it's creating a more mindful you as it relates to your technology usage.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I don't know if you've ever put your cell phone on black and white, like the feature on black and white. Yeah. That's the biggest friction that I've experienced because it's not exciting. Black and white hurts my eyes. I'm not as quick on my phone, but it's really powerful. I love that idea of friction is great.
Yeah. And I think let's stick with that for 1 second here. Cause because there's different ways to do it for people. And you could implement friction with all different types of bad habits in your life. For instance, let's say you have a bad habit of going and snacking in the refrigerator, right? Well, maybe you can put those snacks in the garage or something like that, or move them away, and just make it harder for you to do that. For me, the friction on my phone was taking the apps. This is a very simple one. The apps that are most addicting. For me, it was actually email. I just always liked going to my email. Oftentimes it was when I was making money with my camps before all this happened, I would always like go into my email to see if, did I get more registrations? And I just took that email and I put it on the very last page of all of my apps. So it was just way harder to get to it. So I think I'm trying to think of some other ways to do it, but there's many of them out there. I'm curious. I know we're live on Facebook, but I'd be curious to see how others have implemented that friction. But are there other things that you do in your life, Alexa, whether it be technology or not, where you can create some friction that improves your habits as a whole?
Yeah, so this is a new one for me. I've actually deleted all of my apps off of my homepage on my iPhone. So when I first open my phone, I see nothing but like the earth because I changed my background to be, the picture of the Apple Earth that everyone has. Yeah. So when I open my phone, I unlock it. That's the only thing I see. And on the bottom, I have like phone, calendar, and something else. Phone, calendar, and something else.
Yep. The essentials.
And when I do need something, instead of like scrolling to see all my apps, because that's kind of, I find it to be a little distracting. You have kind of all these little icons that are pulling for your attention. I pull down the top of the screen and then I type in what I'm looking for. So that way I
do
can
the
stay
same
like
thing.
super,
Same thing.
yeah, super laser focused.
Oh yeah. No, it's the best. I mean, hide all the things that are addicting so they're not there for you. It's like, if you don't want to be eating cookies and you have cookies, and what are you going to keep the cookies in the cabinet, or like, sorry, you're going to keep the cookies on the on the counter, or are you going to kind of hide them from yourself and put them in the back, up on the top shelf? It's the same type of thing. So
Yeah.
I think that idea of creating friction is really valuable. Now back to your process here of your 7-day digital detox fast. You noticed that you had more time after doing this and you were doing new things. What were some of those things that you were now doing? And maybe some new thoughts for some things that people can be doing out there. And ultimately, I love what you did, and we're getting some good watches now on Facebook, of writing down all the things that you wish you had more time to do, and then actually just using the new time that you had to do it. I thought that was awesome. But why don't you open that up a little bit more?
Yeah. I lost my train of thought a little bit.
So, and that's good. Like, maybe it's just what you're doing right now is just getting lost in thought more, with your free time. So my question was like, what were you doing with your space? Was it taking walks? I know you're really into getting outside, but like, now that we have more time on our hands, or you had more time on your hands, like what were you doing to fill that space with things that really made you feel alive? Something that was maybe more enriching than being on social media or on your device.
Yeah. I mean, if you take away any device or any addict's vice, and you don't replace it with anything, there's a massive void. Nobody wants to live in the void. So it's an idea of, what would I rather be doing with my time? For me, I am in a state of curiosity and exploration. So there's a lot of hobbies and interests of mine that I don't make enough time for because I'm so busy keeping up with the noise. And this was the first book I've really truly finished in many months. Like, because I pick up a book and then maybe later I want to read a different book and I'm jumping all over the place. So for me, it was this idea of, okay, if I didn't have to deal with the outside world, and also it's kind of just nice to give yourself permission to step away and just know that, like, you don't have to check it. You don't have to follow up with anyone. You don't have to post anything. It's just like, you can get your news from reading the paper and watching the television for a little bit. But I felt that there was so much noise happening now. Everyone was giving their opinion. Everyone was sharing. Everyone's posting a Zoom call in a class and suddenly it was like, where's my space? If I don't carve it out, who is going to? No one's going to. We have to carve it out for ourselves. And so for me, it was like, what are my basics? My basics are, I want to exercise. I want to eat well. I want to have a calm living space to be living in. I'm here with a family and there's many of us and there's not a lot of space. And so it's, how are we going to carve out that space for ourselves and stay sane and stay active and stay healthy? So I focused on that a lot. And, I was being really honest with myself. I can't picture another time in life where I'm going to have extended periods of time with my family in this way. And the worst thing that could happen is that I look back and say, I wish I did that differently.
I think that's really beautiful. When you were talking, it kind of made me think about just a little quote, I don't know if it's a quote that someone said, but like, if you don't book your time, someone else will. If you're not intentional about your own time, you're going to fill it up with, people pinging you on social media. And the fact that you just removed it, created that level of friction, you were able to be more in control of your time. I think that's really awesome. And I love that. I love that, the way that your perspective on the time that you have now, the time that you're given as a privilege to spend with your family. For someone like myself, just, it's really hard right now. And I don't know if we have anybody listening right now that has babies at home or kids. It's really difficult right now because we're sharing daycare. Like, I hear Jack's outside with my wife, my son, and there was a quote that someone said. It was like, it's 2036. My kids are out of the house. I would do anything to hear the clamoring of my 2-year-old and 5-year-old's feet on the ground. And it's like, how can we really make the most of this time and make it some quality time and not be stressed out that we're inside. And I think it's really cool that you've been intentional about making the most of it with your family right now. I think that's really special.
And it's been this like massive internal battle. I don't know if it's happened for you, but this battle of, I should be doing this, and usually I do this, but suddenly I'm here and I'm doing more of this, but I really want to be doing more of this. And you're kind of looking at like, we need to be fluid. We need to evolve into whatever is here right now, whatever is in the space, whatever is happening for us. If we don't evolve and we're not fluid and flexible to fit what is now, we are going to be trying to do our old life in the new life. And then once the new life happens, we're going to wish we had the old life. It's going to be like, so all we can do is get really, really intentional and really, really present with what our life is right now. And maybe that means adjusting. Like, I've been waking up at 5:30 in the morning because for those first 2 hours of the day, no one else is awake. And that's when I can do everything I need to do for myself. And by that time, I can be present and active. And anyone wants to do yoga? Great, I'll do yoga. Anyone who wants to do this? I'll do that. Like, I've figured out for myself that to have that time early in the morning for me allows me to show up powerfully for the rest of the family. And another major thing, and I have to say this because if I don't, it's just missed opportunity. Look at the time on your phone. If it's not on, turn it on. It tracks how long you're on your phone each day. It tracks what apps you're primarily using, for how long. It tracks what app you go to most when you pick up your phone and the first thing you choose. So on the one hand, that's really terrifying that Apple is tracking this stuff, and that's a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But for you to start to become an observer and look at your life and your habits as an experiment. If you do too much of this, try doing something else. If that works, great, keep it. If it doesn't, try something new. This whole process is an opportunity for us to restructure our lifestyles in a way that supports us and allows us to show up for the people in our life that we really, truly care about.
I love that, Alexa. And so you mentioned screen time and all of that. I'm curious, getting it back to your 7-day digital detox. For those who are just joining us, we're with Alexa, and she jumped offline for about 7 days, and we're exploring that, actually a little more because she was enjoying it so much. Now, Alexa, what was it like coming back? What were the first moments like, and how has it served you from the time that you came back to now? What has evolved or what has changed since you did this? We'll start with the first question, which is like, what was it like coming back to it?
It's always daunting. It's always a very daunting feeling because you've kind of now created this new life, this new lifestyle that didn't include it. And I mean, I can speak for myself, but perhaps someone else is feeling the similar way, but it can be really enticing. And when you're on it, you could find yourself spending hours and a long time. And the idea of going from not having it at all to suddenly having it right back in your pocket, on your phone, anytime for as long as you want, it's almost like, am I going to be strong enough to maintain the lifestyle that I prefer? Like, do I really have it in me? And so for me, that's something that I always face that's challenging when I do come back from these social media fasts is, you know, am I ready to be strong and powerful and use this tool for what it was meant to be used for and not take it, for granted and overuse it. So daunting is how I feel when I come back after a social media cleanse and fast.
I'm assuming you paid attention to your screen time as a whole, as it relates to time, pickups, and habits, how they were before and after. How has it changed? And my follow-up question would be, how have you felt now since that has happened, since you've done that detox, if you will?
Well, the beautiful thing is that I actually haven't looked at my statistics yet. So I want to do that.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to do that after we hang up. So there's one part of your previous question that I didn't answer. And I think it's, for me, what I did come to realize is that, like, I genuinely love connecting with people online. Like, there's a lot of people in my life that I've been able to connect with from all different walks. And, that first time, it's so funny. It's like, this seems like such a funny thing to be talking about. But last night was the first time I picked up my phone and created just like a hello video on my Instagram story. And I felt this like, hi, I'm back. Who cares? Like, did anybody notice I was gone? Who knows? I don't know. But for me, it felt like, wow, like, I missed you guys. Like, whoever I get to touch with this video, like, whoever I get to make feel happy or more peaceful or more radiant, or if I could put a smile on someone's face, like, that motivated me and excited me. And so on the one hand, coming back to social media is a little daunting. On the other hand, it's like, there's a whole beautiful community and world of people that I've connected with and that I get to interact with and that I get to share light with. And that makes it worth it. It makes that idea of like, well, why not just leave it behind forever? Well, no, as we're seeing, we're on social media right now, we're on Zoom, we're connecting. This is bringing us closer in these times. So, for anybody who is in digital wellness or this idea of like technology is bad, it's not bad. It's not innately bad. It's how we choose to use it that can either allow us to be the best versions of ourselves, or it can bring us away from being the best versions of ourselves. So there's a lot of beauty to it. And a lot, even my grandparents, who used to be super against social media, Facebook, video, they're like, this is the best. It's saving us, it's giving us access to so many things and we're learning a lot. And so, I think what's happening is all of us are waking up to the brilliance of it. And at the same time, we're all experiencing a dissonance with it. We're realizing that we can't possibly keep up with this rate. We need to strike a balance in some way. But there's beauty and joy in being able to pick up a book before bed and not scroll. And when you get into a habit of that, and when scrolling isn't even a part of your life, it's not even on your phone, like, you're not even using it. Yeah, that book next to your bed might actually be read because you need a way to wind down. Like, you need to slow your mind down some way. So pick up a book, pick up some old pictures you have in your house and organize them, or find a corner in your house and, redecorate it. Get your hands moving with some sort of activity, and put it aside.
One thing that struck me as you were talking, and you were sort of talking about, your urge to want to like come back and be like, hey, I'm here, versus when you were doing your detox, it was just this whole idea of the internal looking within versus external. You felt you were getting out of balance, right? And so you just decided to create that friction and take away your phone and social media for a little bit. And that allowed you to look more inward. And then you felt that you had maybe restored a little balance or had taken that time to look inward. And now it's like, now I could actually look more externally and look outward and show back up in the world a better version of myself, because I'm now more balanced. I'm going to be more present. I feel better. So I would urge any of the listeners out there to give it a shot, even if it's just for a night or 24 hours. If you're feeling that you're out of balance and you're not connecting with yourself, you're not taking that time to look inward, to maybe reduce your ability, create that friction so that you're not living in that external realm by getting offline for a little bit. That was what was coming up for me as you were talking about.
And the beautiful thing is that if it's not social media, it's something else, right? If it's not, if it's not social media, then maybe you'll binge watch Netflix, or, you know, maybe you'll busy yourself doing something else, or you'll get super wrapped up in something. Like, there's always ways to busy yourself. And I think social media it's the easiest thing to look inside ourselves, look inside our family, look inside our home, and, start just doing some accounting.
You broke up a little bit right there. I missed maybe 10 seconds of what you said, but that's okay. I want to talk about for a moment, and we had spent a lot of time planning a big offline event. And I think my world and my viewpoint on connecting online is totally different than how it used to be. And you had mentioned, like, you've made a lot of great connections online. I met you online. So it's this whole idea of that, like, I used to think that the purest form and the only way to truly meaningfully connect is in person. There's actually studies and research backing true empathy is actually built and increased by being offline. I don't believe that to be true in the only way anymore. Since this has happened, I've had incredible connections online. And so I'm curious if you could dive a little deeper into that, about how it is possible to connect online in a deep way, and maybe some actionable things we can do to create stronger connections and leverage technology to do what it's really meant to do, which is to educate and connect people.
I love that. And I think it's a challenge for us who have been in the space of, everybody offline, get offline, spend more time in real life. But I think the first step is to reduce distraction. So, like, I see the computer as being the window to everything. It's a vortex to anything you could possibly want. And so if you're on a call, or if you're in a class, you're doing homework, you're on a work call, but at the same time, you're checking your email, you're writing something else, you're texting someone, you're checking Instagram, whatever it is that you're doing on the side, like, no meaningful connection is going to be happening at that point. You're creating a boundary. So the first thing I would say is, if you want to create meaningful connections on any sort of digital platform, it's reduce distractions, one thing at a time. Plug into it, just like you would be in a meeting. And even when we were in, when real life was happening, we'd be in meetings and everyone would be like texting, or they'd be taking notes, but they'd really be on Slack. Everyone's doing different things, but reducing distractions is the biggest piece of advice, I would say. And then I would say, like, being authentic, being real. I think a lot of us are realizing that. And, maybe your son runs in the room in 3 minutes and jumps on you. And like, that has to be okay. We have to be okay with things not being perfect. So, we are all getting to see a very different side of ourselves. We are all going through a challenge, not in the same way, but we're all going through a similar challenge. So meaningful connections are possible if you give it the space. But I think what a lot of people aren't thinking about, and one thing that I will continue to share about is, and I've had to take a break from Zoom calls and video calls also, because even at the end of the day, like, my boyfriend and I are not seeing each other. Ideally we jump on a Zoom call and we're looking at each other, but that's more blue light. That's more, and blue light is the light frequency that computers, TVs, and cell phones emit, and it has severe impacts on our ability to see, our thinking, our brain development. So what we're not talking about is how blue light is impacting us throughout all of this. So when typically we would go to an in-person meeting and maybe we'd be sitting around a table with one another, now we're staring at screens for upwards 7 or 9 hours a day. And so that is actually having a bigger impact on us than most of us are giving it credit for. So it's that idea of really taking time away from the screen. You can still have meaningful conversations over a telephone. And to be able to put down the phone, does it need to be on a video chat, or can it be over the phone? Just to give your eyes a break. It's crazy. I saw a statistic the other day that I think it's nearsightedness of children is like 3 or 4 times higher than it ever has been, because they're so close to devices that their eye is changing. And so there's a lot of unseen impacts that's happening with the increased blue light. So I would say one thing to keep in mind is, maybe you check your phone first thing in the morning, and then you eventually plug into work. And when work is done, you have dinner, and maybe you watch TV afterwards. So then you're watching TV for however many long, and then you're going to check your phone. It's like every waking hour has been in front of a blue light screen. So that's why I think it's so important to get active, get outside. Like, the healing power of looking at nature is beyond anything that I can get into right now. But taking breaks is good for your eyes. It's good for your biology. It's good for your brain development. And it's good for your heart, your empathetic nature, your ability to connect and communicate with others, understand yourself. The list goes on. I could talk forever.
Totally. And we could probably talk forever as well. Probably coming up on time here soon, but I do want to close with a question or two. Alexa, how we both are sort of in the wellness field, if you will, in different ways, in some ways. How do you think, how is this whole, and we've talked a lot about it, but how has this virus, the pandemic, what we're going through, how is this changing the whole field of digital wellness? How has it evolved it as a whole right now? It's kind of a broad question, but maybe some reflections as to how it's different now. How do you look at it different?
Well, I think we're seeing that. I think it's such a good question. Digital habits have now been amplified in such a way that the whispers of digital wellness specialists and digital wellness collective, they're no longer whispers. They've suddenly been amplified to becoming roars, because people are now faced with the ultimate challenge of having any sort of structure or balance with their work life, their personal life, their social life. Everything is digital now. Everything is happening through a screen. So the challenge and how things are shifting is, it's not just some novel thought process or idea or something you want to try out. It's like we have to evolve our lifestyles. We have to counterbalance the blue light so that we can evolve, because more of this is going to be happening. Maybe not to this degree, but soon we're going to have artificial intelligence introduced into our lives. And that's going to be a whole different ballgame. So for me, it's only pushed me in a direction of really supporting the human being in all of their human intelligence. And you mentioned empathy, that's one of them. Compassion, intuition, strategic thinking, problem solving, creativity. These are all things that are not going away. So the conversation before where it was like, please get away from your cell phones. It's damaging your brain. It's damaging your children's evolution. It's all very true still. And also, we as a people have to evolve. And so I think that that's where my focus is on.
That's beautiful, Alexa. And I love you, and I appreciate your light in the world, because I know I see you as someone who's constantly evolving, someone who's constantly giving, someone who's constantly looking for a better way and looking to help and connect. And I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing all your wisdom. You are wise beyond your years, and I so appreciate. You had asked me one time and I never got back to you as to like, why do you, because I said like, I love your message. You're like, why do you love them? And I think I love them because I could just tell that you really live what you speak. You live what you speak, and it comes through in how you, in your presentation. So again, I appreciate you sharing your story, and anybody out there, particularly those in the New York area, but or not really all over. I'm in California, but I've been working with Alexa, both as a consultant and as a friend. I encourage you to reach out to Alexa to connect. So Alexa, where can we learn a little bit more about you and reach in all of your work?
The best place to find anything about me is on Instagram at alexa.eden, E-D-E-N, like the garden. Or you can find me at www.alexaeden.com. Alexa like technology, Eden like the garden.
Beautiful. Alexa.
I don't know how my mom knew, but she was good. I want to say, David, before I leave, I want to thank you. And I want to sincerely say that the way that you have evolved and pivoted to support your community and to use the tool of technology to bring the best out of people is something that I think a lot of people are looking to do. And I think that you've been an incredible role model in that. And I think one last thing I want to share is this idea that, no matter what we're feeling in this moment, whatever fears we have, whatever uncertainties we're facing, everything is happening for some reason. We might never know why, but it is happening for some reason. And the most beneficial thing we can do is make the most of it and support our children. Because we, as adults, have developed enough to say that there are ways out of this. We've been able to create some sort of concept of future. Kids don't have that. So the more that we can support them in talking them through things, learning how they're feeling, being able to be really present with our kids, even though we've got a lot on our plate and we're all stressed and there's stuff going on, there are long-lasting damages that can happen to kids if we're not careful in these moments with them. So take the time to be with them, speak with them, give them extra love, give them extra support, and get them active, get them moving, however that works. It's so important. So David, thank you for all the work that you're doing. I really, really appreciate you, and I appreciate our friendship so much. And I'm excited to see where these future years take us.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Alex. I appreciate it. Thank you, all the listeners, and we'll talk again soon.
Bye, everyone.
If you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe and give us a rating and review on iTunes. You can also connect with us at americaoffline.info for more great content and to register for upcoming events. Thanks for listening. Now it's time to get offline.